Happy Friday night. I had not planned on going live tonight, but there were some things that happened today that I need to talk about a little bit, and just because I am doing some of these crime issues and other things of interest. So that's why, though, it's Friday night, hair's back, little to no makeup on. It's the end of the day. And so, anyway, I'm going to get right to it because there's a couple of things that hit the news today that I really want to talk about. And one of those is huge breakthrough in the murder um, of Tupac Shakur. He was murdered, as you know, years ago, back in the 90s, and there's never been an arrest. Even though the person they arrested today kind of bragged about it, he never got arrested for it. And so today he was indicted. The man was indicted and arrested for murder, in the Tupac Shakur murder. And so there's a lot that's still unknown. There are a lot of things that we do know. He's bragged about it. He apparently had written some sort of memoir that the police found when they did a search, executed a search warrant at his wife's house back in July, I think it was. And so they found this thing back, that he had written, chronicling his life in the gang. And so that help the police kind of move along. But apparently the police have known about him for a while, and he was one of the suspects originally anyway. But according to the suspect himself, he was not the shooter, but he was in the car. And he was, I think, the mastermind behind doing it, is what the police are saying. So this will be an interesting thing to watch, see how things progress, see if he actually gets convicted, and if he even lives to make it to trial. Who knows what's going to happen while he's in jail waiting for trial. So that is brand new, happening today, as of, today's February 20, I'm sorry, Friday, September 29th. So he just got arrested today. The other thing is, and this is one I don't know that too many people have followed it really, but it was the death of a woman in New York. Her name, she was a Broadway singing coach, Barbara Gustard. She was 87 years old, and a young woman at the age of 27 just shoved her out of the blue. No reason, didn't do anything, just shoved her. Um, the person who has been convicted of it, she actually pled guilty to it, but she has been convicted now of this heinous offense. She is from really a wealthy family and was able to afford a really good lawyer, which is always great if you can afford the really great lawyers, which apparently her family was. So she is 27. She is facing now, I think she's going to prison for 8 years. She was facing 25 years and she only got 8. So let me break that down just a little bit. I don't know personally everything that happened in the case. I don't know how things came about. I can tell you based on my experience as a former prosecutor and defense attorney. Sometimes you do plea agreements for a number of reasons. One, it could just be the family did not want to go through a trial. It could be that the prosecution had some issues with the case, but it also could be that the defense attorney, I think others talked about how um, the defendant had been drinking that night, and she had probably 2 bottles of wine that night, and she may have taken a Xanax or something. So she may not, with a good defense lawyer, what a good defense lawyer would do is be able to cast doubt with the jury on whether or not she could form the mental intent to commit this offense, to kill somebody. And that is one of the elements when you have a trial, the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt several things, but the intent or the mens rea, the mental part of it, is one of those things. And a good defense lawyer can use that as a way to cast doubt. So beyond a reasonable doubt is what the prosecution has to prove. A good defense lawyer could put some doubt in a jury's mind that she did not have the mental ability to commit that offense, at least not what she was charged with. So I don't think the defense attorney was going to walk in there and go, "My client's completely innocent." What a defense attorney is doing in a case like this is they're trying to minimize the damages. They're trying to get a reduced sentence, or if you go to trial, you are going for what's called a lesser included. So you may get charged with, the highest level offense, but the jury may be able to convict of something lesser than that. So that's called a lesser included offense. And so that's probably kind of the angle that her defense attorney was going after, and that's kind of what it sounds like where they landed was a lesser included. Because a prosecutor knows that there may be what's called that jury nullification. So a jury nullification is when a jury looks at things that's not really just the black and white letter of the law and not just the facts, but they'll bring in other things while they're thinking about the case and deliberating. And they may have thought, okay, this is a young girl. She didn't know what she was doing. She's never maybe may or may not come out at trial that she's never been in trouble before. So they could have thought about things other than just what happened and either found her not guilty, which probably wouldn't have happened, or just came back with a lesser included offense. So some of that was all just cut out by her entering a plea agreement. So sparing everybody a trial to probably have a similar outcome as to what may have happened at trial. She, of course, would have taken a huge risk going to trial because she could have gone to prison for 25 years. So she was motivated to plead guilty and get something lesser included, and the prosecution was probably motivated just to make sure they got her convicted and not take a chance on a jury coming back either not guilty or something less than what she got. So um, it doesn't seem right that someone kills an 87-year-old woman for no reason, just goes over and shoves her, calls her the B word, and then just shoves her, and it kills the lady. And then the girl, according to the court records, or according to the news articles I read, she wiped clean her social media. She turned it all off. She did all the things that, as a prosecutor, I would say showed evidence of guilt. And that would have hurt her tremendously at a trial because she knew she did something wrong. And she even stood there and watched as the paramedics took her away. So she knew what she did. She knew that this woman was injured by her actions. And now she has to live with the fact that she killed an 87-year-old just because of her own stupid actions. I don't know what people are thinking these days. I mean, there are just some ridiculous crimes happening. And just like there's another article today where a student threw a chair at a teacher. The teacher had her back to the student, and the student threw a metal chair at the teacher. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, just the teacher seems to be okay. According to the news article, she was okay. But she just got hit with a metal chair. It's ridiculous. The things people are doing is just ridiculous. So anyway, that girl is now on her way to prison for 8 years. So, and I don't like saying defendants' names on here because I want to keep it more victim focused because they're the ones who are innocent in these things and need to be remembered more than the criminals themselves. So finally, moving outside of the criminal cases, we have the conservatorship of Michael Oher. You may know him as the player from The Blind Side. So he was the football player that was what everybody thought adopted by the Tuohys, but it doesn't sound like he was actually adopted based on what has come out publicly. There wasn't an actual adoption, there was a conservatorship, and a conservatorship is generally when someone is unable to take care of their own financial affairs. There generally has to be some type of incompetency or incapacity for someone to get a conservatorship. And incompetency means just that they're incompetent. There's some mental defect. There's something there, mental disability that would render them unable to take care of their own financial affairs, or incapacity would be they're in a coma, they're stuck in a hospital or something. And that those weren't the situations here. So it was interesting. Even the probate judge was like, "How did this even happen to begin with? How did they reach an agreement when this young man was 18? He was 18 when he signed this conservatorship with the Tuohys." Again, I don't have all the details. That a lot of details have not come out publicly, so I don't have them, but the conservatorship was ended today. Um, I think it was, what, 25 years? It's been 20 years, 25 years. It's been a while. Um, he should have, it was weird. It shouldn't have happened that way. It shouldn't have happened, shouldn't have been going on for so long. Even the probate judge was like, this is just weird. I don't understand this. Interestingly, though, even though the judge ended the conservatorship, she did not dismiss or close the case. Michael Oher has asked for an accounting from the Tuohys. The Tuohys have to account for every dime that they spent on him and that they got in on his behalf, but that they spent out. So with a conservatorship, at least in Alabama, they have to do an accounting. The conservators have to do an accounting every 3 years. And it goes to the court so that the probate judge is able to review to make sure things are being taken care of and handled properly. I don't know that that happened here. There hasn't been any information whether or not they actually did this accounting. It doesn't sound like they did. And there are situations where the accounting doesn't get done, but it's required or supposed to get done. But now he is asking for a full accounting, and that's going to be a major undertaking to go back through all those years of looking through receipts and information. So this will be an interesting one to watch to see what happens. Of course, you know, there are two sides of the story. Michael Oher and the Tuohys, they have differing opinions and differing thoughts on how things happened and went. Um, so we'll see what plays out in the courts as to what actually comes about and whether or not the Tuohys did misappropriate any funds or do something untoward towards Mr. Oher. And it is truly unfortunate that this is a situation that they have all found themselves in because the story itself was so, I mean, it was kind of inspiring, uplifting for a lot of people. Other people, it wasn't. But it was one of those kind of feel good stories that um, came about. And so, anyway, those were the three things I want to just jump on here real quick tonight and talk about because it's just, I mean, it was the Tupac news was huge today. That was just a huge thing that happened. And then I just was reading some articles about the Granny killer. I was like, just to explain how something like that could come about, how someone can be convicted of murdering someone just callously, and um, and how she only gets 8 years. So that's my explanation, having been prosecutor and defense attorney. All right, y'all have a wonderful rest of your Friday night and have a great weekend.